Welcome to Child Custody University's video number 2, titled, How to Conduct Yourself in a Custody Dispute. Part 1. These cases can seem like they take an eternity and are often won or lost on actions after the initial filing has taken place. Relational patterns prior to the filing were likely already strained, and litigants are now under increased stress. Conflict can easily escalate, and your every action is now possibly judged by many people within the child custody industry. You can be your own worst enemy. Most research on this topic reveals many lists of what not to do. You need to know what to do to proactively display positive attributes within yourself, as well as an active trajectory toward improving yourself for your children. Acknowledge that the fact you are in a high-conflict custody situation indicates responsibility on your part, even if it is simply that you lacked an understanding of healthy boundaries and healthy relationships in the past. If that is the minimum that exists, ask yourself what positive changes you have made. Are you convincing anyone other than yourself? Accusations of narcissism and other diagnostic activities between parents run rampant. For the most part, this is a foolish endeavor. Focus on your behavior. Great tests for your choices are to first ask yourself if your action is reasonable in a vacuum. This means to disregard the situation that is driving your choice as a justification for your choice. The next question to ask of yourself is, if this choice is easily explainable to anyone as to the benefit to your children, again without the need to reference a situation for justification. Situations obviously need to be reacted to. Quite often, these situations are traps for your reaction to be mischaracterized or misunderstood. Conflict in the courthouse is almost always considered high. If it wasn't, parents would not be there with so many other available options to resolve the conflict. It is important to not be the source of conflict, and to proudly show that you understand that your children deserve peace. You show this through actions and not words, especially words about the other parent. You sacrifice for your children's peace or you don't. This defines you and your children far into the future. You need to understand that your child has two parents, and they are the only ones in the process that can put their children before all of the conflict and negative feelings. The judge is bound by law to make restricted choices within the bounds of law, given the parents that are present before them. They do this based on a snapshot of the entirety of the situation presented to them in a trial. The attorneys are charged with the responsibility of advancing their client's interests, and try to convince a judge that the children's interests are the same. Add to this equation two members of the mental health industry on opposite sides of the argument who disagree with each other. Every person in the mix is a flawed person. Consider that you are your child's only hope to have a peaceful and loving future. Your choices and behaviors and the perceptions of them are important. This process is a journey. Your list of things to do will vary from case to case. Here is some framework to get your mind tuned into a positive and affirmative set of actions. Expect everyone looking at the same information to come to a different conclusion initially. Preconceived ideas and prior experiences will drive mischaracterizations. Do not react to these perspectives beyond listening carefully to gain a complete understanding of where you went wrong or what information you failed to include that would allow others to have a greater understanding of the situation. You need to listen to everyone and do your best to understand their perspectives. Be an information gatherer. When you do need to respond, consider asking questions to spark them to offer even more clarity on their conclusions and why they have them. You should not challenge their thinking. If there is more information they are not aware of that may change their perspective, ask them if they think this particular fact is important to the scenario and why they feel it is or is not, and then listen. You will learn something either way. Here is a list of things you should consider doing. Find a hobby to enjoy regularly. Belong to a church community. Do not date. If you must date, don't. It is likely you will engage in the usual pattern. Remove stress from your life as much as you can. Work out regularly. Be low conflict with everyone. Do not drink alcohol. Do not smoke. If you are a smoker, understand that this activity creates stress and mood swings for many people, especially if quitting. See a counselor. Join a single parents group. Be social with boundaries. Get your sleep. Stay hydrated. Take parenting courses. Get to know the friends of your children and their parents. When you interact with the other parent, be nice. If they partake in conflict, politely have a boundary that only requires your behavior to adjust and not theirs. Do not engage in conflict. It is acceptable to simply state that you disagree. The courtroom is for conflict. The rules in a courtroom keep everyone safe and as honest as it will ever be. You are not going to be a pathological, dysfunctional mess. You own agenda and no time for the conflict. Be nice. Within the list of things to do is get your sleep. Make sure your children get their sleep as well. Here are 7 things that sleep deprivation can affect. Lack of sleep impairs your ability to think. Sleep maintains a healthy immune system. Sleep helps you moderate your emotions. Lack of sleep lowers your ability to concentrate. Lack of sleep impairs your memory, both in the creation of memories as well as the ability to recall. Lack of sleep impairs your problem-solving ability. Depression is an effect of sleep deprivation. Make sure you are getting proper sleep with regularity and notice the impact. This is the end of the first half of Child Custody University's Module Number 2, titled, How to Conduct Yourself in a Custody Dispute. Part 1. Part 2 deals with conflict during the process and is a bit longer with many references for you. Please be prepared to take notes or listen to the video more than once. You should see a link to Part 2 on the screen now. Welcome to Child Custody University's Module Number 2, titled, How to Conduct Yourself in a Custody Dispute. Part 2. This video deals with conflict during the process and is a bit longer with many references for you. Please be prepared to take notes or listen to the video more than once. All of the information offered in Part 1 is great for day-to-day and dealing with generalities. Dealing with conflict is another part of the process that is where many parents have difficulty. The difficulty is inherent in the novel paradigm of caring for your child, while feeling threatened about losing a connection with your child, as well as the common inflammatory allegations that are an all too common part of filing documents. You may find it helpful to create a flowchart or graph of some sort to help navigate some of the choices within the conflict. Consider who is responsible, who is affected, who can affect the situation and how. Is it even your decision, or can you responsibly refocus on another activity, knowing that this is not your problem? Are you setting a positive example for your child? Can you explain your actions and sound reasonable? Are you respecting the other parent and their domain? Are you putting your children first? The amount of consideration can seem overwhelming because it is. This is not natural. Creating strategy for the conflict seems like a great idea. You need a set of rules for you to follow to navigate the process of decision-making. You want healthy communication that is effective with a pathological individual while maintaining your bearings. Keep in mind that you could be the problem. If you maintain discipline in your communications and act in a healthy manner, your pathology is not only hidden, but it improves. It also allows anyone who judges interactions to see more of the other party's pathological words and actions. You can retrain yourself to live in a healthier lifestyle through better choices. This will not be intuitive and will be uncomfortable initially. If not, you're not doing it right. Your goal needs to be to expose problems with the other party and hide yours. When you leave the crazy alone, you expose it. The first person to learn this skill wins. It is a matter of learning to be non-reactive. When two people are in conflict and onlookers observe, they have no idea why this is happening. If your opposing party is as nuts as you need them to be, let them be. Just let them be. This non-reactive posture you should act in will enable onlookers to clearly see the source of the conflict. You can interact with the other parent for the sole purpose of caring for your children and nothing else. It is acceptable and in high conflict, preferred. If you have difficulty with this boundary, you lack self-control. You may likely be a high conflict personality. It may not be your normal mode of operation, but you may feel obligated to correct the other party and encourage reasonableness, form the other party, for the sake of you children. It sounds like a great idea in a vacuum. This fits the profile of a codependent personality type. You are not actually doing it for you children, though. You are doing it to make yourself feel secure, or doing it for the ex-lover that you still have empathy for. You could be simply trying to control everyone's mood out of habit. Whatever it is not healthy. You're now only doing healthy things, so you cannot participate in this. Here are 2 warnings that should serve you well. Please remember these and stay alert while you are being polite and nice to the other parent. First, passive-aggressive behavior is intended to disrupt, annoy, and cause anger. This usually happens while an audio recorder is activated by the other party. Always be nice. Accept the odd and ridiculous behaviors offered. Simply disagree and remove yourself the chaos. The second warning is to fear self-righteousness. Please understand that it is your own self-righteousness that I am referring to. It creeps in when others are extremely immoral and passive-aggressive. Always act calmly, thoughtfully, and moderate yourself. Accept what the other is offering, the insanity, with grace, and be grateful you are not acting crazy as well. Keep things simple and always follow the current order. Be nice, document everything, and shelter your children from the conflict. I will offer a final note on communication with the other parent. Emails are best. Asking questions is better than volunteering information. Seek to understand. Communicate information, not feelings. You want to disengage from dysfunction. Imagine that you are both trying to be nicer than the other party, to impress upon the court how great you are. Your kids will be much better off. Whoever does not control themselves loses. That reality is reasonable. It is usually both parties not in control and blaming the other party. It then becomes a fool errand to attempt to figure out the core issue. It doesn't matter what the issue is when the level of conflict is high. The level of conflict is the issue at that point. Judges are not typically fools. Respect the other parent even if you think they are not worthy. Do not create doubt in a judge's mind about your parenting, reasonableness, or your credibility. Do not do this. Do not. Conducting yourself properly when conflict is high during a court case that involves child custody requires skill. I want to recommend 2 books for further study if you choose. The first is How to Communicate, The Ultimate Guide to Improving Your Personal and Professional Relationships by Matthew McKay, Martha Davis, and Patrick Fanning. Chapter 1 is about listening. There is a list of blocks to listening and the 4 steps to effective listening. Active listening ensures understanding. Before you move on, make a decision, or respond, you need to fully understand the other party. Even if you end up telling them you will need time to think before responding, make sure you fully understand. In Chapter 10, there is a section about assertiveness. There is a list of 18 legitimate rights with corresponding inverse traditional assumptions that correlate appropriately. It deals with what many learn in childhood, and then the authors translate the concept into a more functional and universal adaptation to be effective in conflict resolution as an adult. It is surprisingly useful. Number 16, for example, you have the right not to take responsibility for another's problems. The mistaken traditional assumption is that when someone is in trouble, you should always help them out. As adults in charge of our own destiny, expectations change. The book is a good investment. It has sections on public speaking as well as sexual communication. The second book is titled High Conflict People in Legal Disputes, written by Bill Eddy. He is a licensed clinical social worker, as well as an attorney from San Diego. He is brilliant. These high-conflict individuals have a long-term problem of blaming others. He breaks down the 4 personality types that he sees in high-conflict situations. They are borderline, who has a fear of abandonment, narcissist, who have a fear of being inferior, histrionic, who have a fear of being ignored, and antisocial, who have a fear of being dominated. Each of these types typically has a target of blame. This target is likely who they are litigating against. There is a method of reacting to the high-conflict individuals by the targets that can help reduce the conflict based on the particular type of personality they trend toward. I have created a cheat sheet for you to view what Mr. Eddy portrays. It is linked below this video. If you want to make this effective, you should consider our coaching program to gain specific insights. Mr. Eddy and I caution you that this is not intended to be a means of diagnosis. There are no criteria for diagnosis included. This process is simply to identify a means for assisting in resolving conflict. Our coaching program can help you make more sense and good use of this knowledge. There is also a video we are adding to the collection that we did not produce, but is beneficial to understand the narcissist style of personality and a bit about what are commonly referred to as the flying monkeys. You need to put all of this information into practice because you are preparing yourself for judgment and your children are counting on you. Another document we are including in the links is a PDF that is a communication example for you to review and keep in mind. it is a situation that is very common and creates some degree of conflict almost every time, it should be a link on the YouTube video page, as well as on our webpage. Remember to be nice and document.